exposed loopholes, $35 billion of loopholes for oil and gas, and it was defeated. And Michael Bennet was a no vote on this amendment that would have been a law, not a resolution, but a law that would have protected the environment. Instead, more tax breaks go to oil and gas. And for example, ExxonMobil made $19 billion in profit, paid no taxes, and got a refund of $156 million. The U.S. Treasury lost $35 billion because this amendment went down. And Michael Bennet voted against that amendment.
Over the last couple months in the wake of the disaster on Deepwater Horizon. But it's also come to light that BP took full advantage of loopholes in the law and regulations to increase its own bottom line. Before the disaster occurred, BP was granted a categorical exclusion by the Mineral Management Service. BP was not required to submit an environmental impact statement as part of its lease application process, and right now Congress is focused on the immediate tragedy. That's appropriate. But loopholes that benefit big oil and cause damage to the environment and American people remain wide open. For example, the Safe Drinking Water Act has a Halliburton exemption that allows the release of chemicals used in fracking without requiring the disclosure of those chemicals and their environmental impact. Congresswoman DeGette has twice offered to close this loophole, but Congress has failed to get that job done. There are exemptions from the Clean Air Act for oil and gas wells. In Garfield County alone, 450 wells have released 30 tons of carcinogenic benzene, 20 times more than a non-exempt industrial plant in Denver. The industry has the luxury of dozens of exemptions that lead to record profits, as Joe said, with no regard for those they hurt. Oil and gas exploration enjoys exemptions that don't apply to other aspects of the industry. Refineries are subject to the Clean Air Act, for example, and have to contain the release of gas, while wells do not. When I'm elected to the United States Senate, I'll push for an audit of the Safe Drinking Water Act's exemption and the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act's exemption from certain hazardous waste disposal and handling reporting requirements, the exemptions that are in place in the Clean Water Act to allow some industries to obtain stormwater runoff permits on well construction sites smaller than 5 acres, the exemption from the Clean Air Act that allows the release of harmful gases from oil wells, and the exemptions in our National Environmental Policy Act that free some of these industries from conducting environmental impact statements of their drilling operations. All of these acts have exemptions for oil and gas, loopholes that we ought to scrutinize and close. We ought to have stronger safety, inspection, and enforcement regulations of our drilling operations, land and offshore, and take every precaution to ensure that disasters like these do not occur again.